The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello and welcome everyone to this webinar today on SAP data integration on the Microsoft platform. My name is Christoph Schuler and I will walk you through who we are, 𝐂𝐨𝐽𝐷 Software. I'll tell you a little bit about our company, and then specifically I will introduce the data integration functionality that we provide in our products with the Microsoft platform with environments like SQL Server, Azure, or Power BI. So let me get started. Feel free to use the chat window to ask your questions during this webinar. I will do my best to answer either during the webinar or at the end. So let's get started. I'll go into full display mode. And let's see, to make sure everybody can see this. Okay, so that looks good. So let me first introduce our company. 𝐂𝐨𝐽𝐷 Software is a company that's been around for 15 years, and during this time we focused on SAP connectivity. To this day, that's still the focus of our work and our expertise, and we've grown in these 15 years to about 2,500 SAP customers. I'll talk a little bit more about that on the next slide. We're an ISV, meaning we are focused on the development, the marketing, and the support of software solutions, solutions that are ready to be used by our customers, ideally. So we're not a consulting firm. We offer ready-to-be-used products for SAP connectivity. We are represented today in 4 geographies. Our company is headquartered in Stuttgart, Germany, and we have sales offices in the US, in Seattle, which is where I work, also in France and in Hong Kong to service our growing customer base in those areas. On this next slide, you see in the blue shaded areas where we have customers today. The pins indicate our office locations. And we've sort of grown as a company with the SAP market out of Germany, out of Europe, with more and more business also in the Americas and Asia Pacific. Here you can see some of our customer references. Among our customers, we have SAP customers, large and small. And what's very important here is these are customers across all industries. We have automotive customers, pharmaceutical customers, retail, chemical, public companies. We're not really focused on a certain industry or on a certain module within the SAP environment. Generally speaking, we can connect to any system at SAP customers that runs on the ABAP or NetWeaver platform. So for most customers, that means connectivity or integration with their SAP ERP or ECC system, as well as BW. Those are the most common integration options. I do want to mention 2 key partnerships for us. We've been, for many years, a Microsoft partner. We're a Gold Application Development Partner. And you can see here on the left side of the slide that we offer a number of different integration options between customers' SAP environments and Microsoft solutions. In particular, among the more popular ones are SQL Server, SQL Server Integration Services and Reporting Services. We see Power BI more and more. We also have customers bringing SAP data into Power Pivot. Also more and more we see Azure data storage. This is where customers want help in bringing SAP data into those environments. Also Microsoft Flow and Logic apps, as well as SharePoint, and then general .NET development. So for any of these environments and platforms, we have solutions to integrate customers' SAP environments with the corresponding Microsoft product. We're also an SAP partner. We're in fact an SAP certified partner. And we have, for the 15 years that we've been doing this, been offering broad support for the SAP landscape at our customers. We actually go back to earlier releases of SAP in terms of what we support with our products, as far as SAP R3 4.0, all the way to the latest S/4HANA releases. And similarly in BW, we have support for earlier releases going back to BW 3.1, all the way up to the very latest BW for HANA releases. So let's talk about what our SAP data integration solutions look like. It always starts with the customer's SAP environment, and I mentioned our products can work with anything that runs on the traditional SAP NetWeaver or SAP ABAP platform. SAP has carried this through into the latest innovations. If you think about S/4HANA, for instance, it's still very much based on the ABAP platform. So for any of these environments, we have a solution called Extract Universal. And Extract Universal is a product that comes out of the box with today 9 different data source types for SAP, or 9 different extractors. This is also a growing list of extractors depending on where we see opportunity or need by customers to connect to specific sources in their SAP system. Any of these connectors always connect in the context of an SAP user. So we're fully visible to the SAP administrator. Anything we do in SAP happens in the context of an SAP user and the authorizations that this user has in SAP. But then we utilize different interfaces and mechanisms that we as an external party, as a third party, can use to bring data outside of SAP in the most reliable and efficient manner. And so I'll walk briefly through these. We can connect to tables or joins of tables. We can also connect to what are called data sources, OLTP data sources in the ERP system. Those are actually SAP's own extractors that customers use to also pull data into a BW system. We can connect to cubes and BEX queries in the SAP Business Warehouse environment. There's an interface called Open Hub Services interface that we can also talk to. We can connect to hierarchy information, function modules, and BAPIs. SAP's own query, that's transaction SQ01, as well as ABAP reports. So any of these data sources or interfaces are at our customer's disposal to connect to SAP and bring data outside. We then bring the data out, we extract the data from SAP, and then with our tool, store it directly in one of the following environments. For the Microsoft platform, we support SQL Server, different versions and releases of it, also Azure SQL, Azure Data Warehouse, and Azure Blob Storage. So that's what we offer today. We also offer some non-Microsoft destinations, but that's not the topic of this talk today. The way Extract Universal works is it brings the data out from SAP in a reliable and performant way, and then it passes it through into the destination, into, in this case, the Microsoft storage environment directly, without storing the data anywhere in between. We're not an ETL tool. We put most of our emphasis and knowledge on the E part, on the extraction part. But Extract Universal does the required transformations, namely transforming SAP native data types to what the destination, in this case, a SQL Server destination, may require. And we have some load capabilities built in. So you can decide if you, let's say, run a data extract on a continuous basis. Let's say you run this every day. You can decide if you want to drop the table and recreate it in the destination, or if you want to truncate it, or if you want to do some sort of merging into an existing data set. So that type of load behavior you can control with our tool. But again, we're not trying to be a full ETL platform. We're trying to be a very simple tool, also that comes at a cost advantage to our customers, that mainly helps with the heavy lifting of bringing the data outside of SAP and storing it where the customer can then further analyze it or work with it. And so I will show you a brief demo now of how this looks. You see on this next screen, I'll give it a second. You see on this next screen the Extract Universal Designer. This is the front end of Extract Universal. The tool has a simple architecture. It has a designer that you see here, and it has a service that runs in the background, a Windows service that does the work of extracting the data. It also takes care of the logging and security and so forth. With the designer, you see here a list of rows. Each one of these rows represent a data extract from an SAP system. And initially, when you start using this tool, this list will be empty. And then you can have as many data extracts as you want. You can design these, create these, modify them, run them in parallel. And a data extract is mainly defined by three things. You have a source. You see it here in the third column. The source is always an SAP system. You see here I have an ECC system defined as a source. I have a business warehouse BW system. I have an S/4HANA system. Maybe you have an SAP sandbox or QA system. So you can have as many different SAP sources as you want. And then the second thing that defines an extract is the type of extract. That's one of the 9 different extractors that I introduced earlier. And then for that extractor type, let's say you're extracting from a table, you then pick a specific object, right? So you would pick the specific table, or in the case of a BEX query or cube, you pick the specific BEX query or cube from BW. And then the final piece to creating a data extract is shown here in the fourth column. That's your destination. So that tells the tool where to send the data once it's extracted. And so the first example that I will show you here is a very simple data extract. It's a table extract. I prepared it for this webinar. It's called Webinar LFA1 because it pulls from a table in SAP ERP called LFA1. If I bring this up in the edit mode, you can see here I have the table component. You can see it here. At the top it says table. Again, that's one of the 9 different extraction types that we have. I have then selected a table using the search button. And we tried to make this very easy for customers. A little bit of SAP knowledge is required here, but you could also search for a description. You know, you could say, vendor master or customer master if you're not familiar with the exact table name. And that's one of the things our tool can also do. It can query the SAP metadata and guide you a little bit here in terms of selecting the right table or objects. So I've selected table K in LFA1, and then you can see here the tool shows me all the columns with their descriptions, and I can select the columns that I want to bring out. So you don't have to bring the whole data set unless you want to. And I can also apply a filter. I could say here, for instance, only give me records where the customer field, this land 1 here, you see it here, is the country key equals US. This could also be a parameter, which can be very helpful, right? If I specify something that starts with the @ symbol, I can pass in a country code at runtime. And so instead of providing a hard-coded value like I had before, which was US, I can pass in a code, and then that gets applied as my data extract executes. This also works for date fields. So think of a transactional table that stores create date or change date fields. You could use a where clause like this to limit your data that you're bringing out from the SAP system using a date parameter. So you could construct a query that would pull data only up to a certain date, or that would pull data going back from today minus 10 days, let's say, or today minus 30 days. And that can be very helpful to also achieve incremental data loads from SAP. So that's my table extract. And the other thing I briefly want to introduce here is the source. You see here the source is ECC. Let's take a closer look at how that's defined. I can edit my different SAP sources here. And the way we connect to our SAP system is always through using a username and using SAP GUI type logon parameters. So I mentioned earlier, we always connect through the application layer. We don't connect at the database. Everything we do happens in the context of an SAP user. And then the last thing I need to specify here is a destination. And you can see here I have a SQL Server destination defined. Let's take a closer look at what that looks like. Here it is. So here I have a local SQL Express installation on my laptop running. This could also be a SQL Server somewhere in your company's environment. It could also be an Azure SQL instance. And I can use Windows authentication or username password authentication to connect, and then the data will be persisted directly there. Now, once I selected a database, I have a few more options. I can specify here what the table should look like or be named like. It could be the SAP object or the name of the extraction. And then over on the right, this allows you to control what happens on the database side as the data is loaded. I have a preparation phase where I can specify should the table be dropped and then recreated, right? So this becomes important when you run an extract on a repeated basis, right? Let's say every day or maybe every hour. Or do you want to truncate the table and then insert the records? And you can go very granular here. You can even edit your own SQL statements or modify the SQL statements or even run stored procedures. We have some customers that do that. So this helps you to control the processing of the SAP records on the receiving side in the database. So I'm going to go with a default, and then I will run this. Okay, this is the ad hoc mode of running this. You can also schedule this to automate an extract and run it on a repeated basis. I will now launch the SQL Server Management Studio to show the result. You can see here my extract finished. I can close this window. We also have logging built in. Pretty detailed logging that can be very helpful for troubleshooting, for instance. And it tells me now that only 3 records were extracted. That's because I didn't pass in a parameter for my country. And let me actually fix that real quick and go back to changing this to US and then run it again. Okay, there it is. And then we should see a few more records, 922 in this case. This is shown in the log. I can also monitor the extraction times here and follow the process along as to what happens, starting with SAP and then ending with the persistence of the data in the database. So let's see if we can see the data over on the SQL Server side. I should have a database called SAPDW, and there should be a table with the name webinar LFA1. There it is. Okay, and I should see my data show up here. Okay, so pretty simple example. Again, the data flow is direct from SAP, from a live SAP system into, in this case, a local SQL Server database instance. And let me show you one other thing here, just another example to show you the capabilities of Extract Universal. This was probably one of the most simple examples. Many of our customers run more advanced data extractions. I'd like to show you at least one more data extraction type in this tool, which is the table join component. As mentioned earlier, I'll briefly mention this again. We have 9 different extraction types based on your own needs, based on where the data lives that you want to bring out into a data warehouse or ultimately into an analytics environment. And from our experience, this varies greatly from customer to customer. We have customers that have built SAP queries in their ERP system. We have other customers that really like the Delta Q or SAP's own extractors options because they're used to working with them from their own BW data extractors. And so it really depends. But with this tool, you get the whole set of extractors and you can use whatever fits best for your environment. This extract here utilizes the table join component. Oftentimes in SAP, you have tables that are related. For instance, a header table, like in this case, the sales header table with the name VBAK, and a related line item table, sales document item data, or VBAP. So I brought in these tables with this table join component. It looks a little different to the previous one that we saw. The tool has automatically recognized the foreign key relationship between these two tables based on the metadata in the SAP system. And then I went ahead and I dragged and dropped a few fields from both tables down here into my selection set. So from the header table, I selected sales document number, the document type, and the creation date, and then some item data from the table VBAP. You can create aliases here if you want to specify more user-friendly names. You can even aggregate data, for instance, let's say on the on a value field, let's say a dollar value or a quantity field. So in this case, I'm just going to run this query as it is. You could also add criteria, a where clause, or a grouping of records, again, depending on what your needs are. And what this component does is it sends a SQL statement, an SAP language SQL statement that is interpreted at the ABAP layer down to SAP. And you can look at this statement here if you're interested, but that's what gets executed in the ABAP layer, and that what brings the results back. So in this case, you see it, I have a different source. This is an S4 HANA system. I did want to show that our tools also work with the HANA platform. And in this case, I'm not going into a local database, but I'm going into an Azure Blob storage. Let's take a quick look at how that is configured. Azure Blob is actually a very efficient way to get data into the cloud. Instead of writing to a relational database, I'm actually writing to the Blob storage as a CSV file. And I can specify some CSV settings here. And then to actually connect to the Azure Blob storage, I need the account name in Azure and a key, a security key. And then I can optionally specify a container. So let's run this one. Again, I'm going to run ad hoc here in the tool. This can also be scheduled and automated. And then I will switch over to my Azure environment. And I will go to my storage account and my Blob storage to see the results. Okay, so I have a SAP to Azure Blob storage here. Okay, I'm going to wait a second. I think the screen needs to catch up. Okay, I'm going to reshare. There we go. The screen has not updated yet. I apologize for that. So now it looks updated. You can see here, this is my Azure portal screen. I'm in the storage account in Azure. And in here, I can go to my Blob service. Within my Azure Blob service, I have a container that is called SAP Data. And that's the one I specified in Extract Universal. And I'm going to briefly switch over here to see if my data extract finished. It pulled 482 records. It's not a very big extract from this HANA-based system, but it finished successfully. And let me close this. And you can see here my data, my SAP data was stored in the Azure Blob storage as a CSV file. And I could download it from here or look at it with the Storage Explorer. But we have customers that use exactly this to quickly upload larger amounts of SAP data into the cloud, and then they use cloud tools and other cloud, let's say, analytics or transformation tools to work with that data. Maybe from here it could go into a data lake. Maybe from here you can use a Power BI dashboard or report on top of it. Maybe you would use some Hadoop analysis. So you could do all kinds of things and use all kinds of cloud services now on top of your data. But we do have customers that like the option of using a blob type storage or file-based storage to bring up larger amounts of data into the cloud from SAP and then work with it there. So let me go back to the presentation. In the next example, I would like to show you another use case that is also enabled with Extract Universal. So with Extract Universal, you also have the option to go directly into your analytics or reporting tools. There may be use cases for that where you don't want to go through a data store or database first. We support the same SAP sources that we talked about before. You have the same source extractors that we've talked about before. And you can go directly into a tool like Power BI. So let me show you a demo of this. I'm going to bring up the Power BI desktop tool. Okay, so here we go. It's taking a second here. Okay, while this is loading, let's go over to Extract Universal. I have a extraction prepared. This one here, this one is pulling data from a BEX query in a BW system. That's actually a fairly common scenario where customers want to bring data from BW directly into an analytics tool. So the data exists in a cube or is accessible through a BEX query in a SAP Business Warehouse environment. The data is already modeled. You have your key figures, you have your dimensions. It's kind of ready to be consumed or reported on. So I chose a BEX query here, and I chose OData Atom as a destination. Let's take a quick look at how the source of this data looks. You can see here this component looks a little bit differently. Here I've specified a BEX query from my BW system, and I can expand on the left the key figures, each one of the characteristics down to the properties or attributes, and bring into my data set whatever I would like to in terms of the key figures and characteristics. We also support variables in this component. So these are characteristic restrictions on your BEX query. If they're defined on the BEX query, they allow you to further limit your data selection and the amount of data you're bringing in from this BEX query. Okay, so when I choose the Run button here, I can copy this URL, and when I switch over to Power BI Desktop, I can now use the Get Data command, and then I would choose OData Feed, which is what Extract Universal provides me with. And I can simply paste this URL, which is the endpoint of my OData service that Extract Universal provides, and then click OK. I should now see a preview of the data. There's a setting in Extract Universal where you can tell Extract to bring in actual data in the preview or just sample values. So we should see that momentarily. Okay, there it is. So my setting is for sample values, but I can see in the column headers that my data is coming in from the BEX query with the dimensions and key figures that I selected. I can further edit this in the Power BI query editor, or I can directly load it. I'm going to go with this option. Okay, so Extract Universal now in the background is running this data extract against the BW system, and then the data comes back into my Power BI desktop solution here. Okay, so here's my data set. You can see it over on the right. I can also switch over here to the data set to take a look at the raw data as it came in from SAP. There it is. And going back to the report mode, I can start to create my visualizations. Okay, so a very simple example, and also refresh will work here because it would invoke the OData service again against Extract Universal, and then Extract Universal queries the SAP BW system. So a simple example for how you can use Power BI Desktop with the Extract Universal tool. The last tool that I would like to talk about is called 𝐸xtract_IS. 𝐸xtract_IS is especially interesting for customers that use Microsoft's SSIS or Microsoft's SQL Server Integration services as their ETL platform. As before, SSIS has the same capabilities in terms of connecting to a customer's SAP landscape. It comes with the same extractors, currently 9 different data sources or data extractors. But compared to Extract Universal, which is a standalone tool, which runs on standard Windows hardware and software, 𝐸xtract_IS is built for SQL Server Integration Services. It requires SQL Server Integration Services, or SSIS. Think of it as a series of plugins. Each one of these connectors is a plugin, a data source plugin into SSIS, providing SAP data extraction capabilities directly within the SSIS environment. And then within SSIS, you have all the transformations to further manipulate the data. You can do sort, merge, aggregations, what have you. And then the built-in SSIS destinations. For instance, SQL Server, Azure SQL, Azure Data Lake, and various different ADO or OLADB destinations. The other interesting thing about this SSIS integration is Microsoft has now enabled SSIS packages to run in the cloud within what's called the Azure Data Factory, or ADF. And so they have created a runtime that allows customers to run existing SSIS packages, ETL packages, within a runtime inside of the Azure Data Factory. 𝐸xtract_IS also works in that environment. We have partnered with Microsoft to enable this functionality. So one scenario for customers might be to start developing an ETL process or a package within SSIS, within their known environment, and then deploy that package up into the cloud. And the package can run there within ADF, together maybe with other extraction packages. And it will pull data from your SAP data sources as before. So that's another very interesting cloud integration option that is enabled through this technology. So let me show you a brief demonstration of 𝐸𝐸xtract.IS. For this, I will have to start the design environment for 𝐸𝐸xtract.IS, which is Visual Studio based. So the SSIS developer is familiar with this environment. This is how the Microsoft or SSIS developer will create ETL packages. And I have a small demo here prepared for 𝐸𝐸xtract.IS. You can see on the left, once this is loaded, okay, so it's taking a second to load. Okay, there it is. You can see on the left my project. Okay, this is a standard SSIS project, and I have created 5 different packages. You can see them here. There's one package for each of 5 of our different extraction types. This environment, as mentioned, looks just like you would normally use Microsoft's SSIS, even without our tool. In the middle, you have a design surface that allows you to design a data flow. You basically specify a data source and a transformation, and then your data destination. And with 𝐸𝐸xtract.IS, with our tool installed, you will see your SAP components show up in the SSIS toolbox. So here are our data extractors, and you can simply drag and drop them over into the data flow designer to start designing your SAP data extract. And the data extract that I prepared for you here, let me just delete this, is using the extract delta Q. Okay, we haven't talked about this so far in this webinar. This is another very powerful and very popular choice for our customers. What the delta Q component allows you to do is it allows you to connect into SAP's own data extractors. So many customers know these extractors from pulling data into their SAP business warehouse, into the BW system. And one of the main advantages of these components is they're pre-built into every SAP system. So there's nothing else you have to really install. They already come with the NetWeaver platform. And the other advantage is most of them are Delta capable, meaning SAP has a built-in mechanism to keep track of new records and changed records. And you can, by selecting a mode on these source objects, you can specify whether you want to do a full extraction, and once you have done that, you could initialize a delta or the delta Q in SAP, just like you would with BW. And then you could do a delta update, meaning when you run this continuously, you only get the changed and the new records. And by doing this, you can enable sort of a trickle feed of your changed data from SAP into your SQL Server or Azure SQL or what have you data storage. So here I have a simple example set up. This uses a source extractor from the FIGL component in SAP. So this has general ledger data, and this is a Delta capable data source from SAP. I'm going to do a full pull in this demo, but again, if a customer would use this in a productive environment, they would start with a full pull and then switch to Delta updates to enable an almost near real-time update of financial information in their data warehouse. And so that's the 𝐷eltaQ component for my GL object, and I'm sending this straight into an OLADB destination. We can also take a quick look at that. This is again my SQL Express installation on my local machine. There's a table that I called 𝐷eltaQ demo, and the data from this object is mapped through to the destination one by one here. So I'm not doing any additional transformation in this simple demo. So I can run this. I'm just simply right-clicking here, and I will say execute package. And because we're fully plugged into the SSIS environment, we also provide logging or debugging functionality, as you see here. By executing the package, I started to debug this package. So we're fully integrated into the error handling, the logging, and so forth of SSIS. We can now follow the progress of this data extract. And I did set a filter on one of the values, so this shouldn't take too long, even though it's a full extract. You can also see here at the bottom of my screen, these are my connection objects. I have a connection to an ECC system, I have a connection to a BW system, and I also have a connection to my SQL destination. And you can see here the Delta component pulled just over 4,000 rows, and I can refresh my table in my database here, and you can see here my 𝐷eltaQ demo is shown here, and I can select the top rows here. So this was an example of how you can use extract.is within Microsoft's SSIS environment to directly pull data from SAP. So let me finish by quickly summarizing the main differences between the two tools. As we've seen, Extract Universal in the first demo that I showed you is a standalone tool. It runs on standard Windows hardware and standard Windows OS, whereas extract.is requires Microsoft's SSIS. It's designed to work within SSIS, and that determines the designer and the runtime, as we saw. Both tools can be automated or scheduled, so you can run data extractions from SAP on a repetitive basis. Extract Universal can be scheduled with your tool of choice. Most of our customers use the Windows Task Scheduler because it's a built-in tool into Windows. On the extract.is side, typically SQL customers use the SQL Server agent, but you could also use the Windows Task Scheduler to automate the package execution. What is your ETL platform? For Extract Universal, it's mostly an extraction tool. We don't do a lot of transformations or loading, just enough to help you get the data to where you need it in the right format. But we aim to integrate with your ETL platform. So if you have another platform, we provide a command line utility with Extract Universal that can be scripted, that can be remotely executed, and then you can integrate that process with your existing ETL platform. With extract.is, this is mainly for customers that use SSIS or together with the Azure Data Factory, perhaps, as their ETL platform. In terms of SAP data extraction, the tools have the exact same capabilities, and this is really where our expertise comes into play. We have fine-tuned, we have enhanced, we have in some ways re-architected these data sources over the years based on customer use cases and demand. And we're still enhancing them and adding to them. There's actually a 10th data source coming out very soon, specifically for HANA platforms. In terms of the destinations, Extract Universal has 20 plus different destinations built in where the SAP data can be sent to directly. We support AWS, Amazon destinations, Azure destinations, SQL Server, as we've seen, also a number of other database vendors, Exasol, SAP HANA as a destination, Oracle, Teradata, HP Vertica, and then also you can go directly into some analytics tools like Alteryx, Power BI, Qlik, or Tableau. We also support common file formats or data formats like OData and CSV file. On the Extract IS side, it evolves mostly around what SSIS provides you. We don't really add anything to the transformations or destinations in SSIS. So you can work with the Microsoft standard SSIS destinations that are listed here, but there's also third-party destinations, let's say, for instance, for Teradata that you can find from other vendors. The pricing for both tools is per server. You see it listed down here. This is for the server that you install our tool on, and this is a one-time perpetual license fee. And we offer a maintenance program for 20% of the license value annually for our support and continued product updates. So I would like to close with a few points that we like to bring up to customers when they ask us, why would we work with you? We have been in the market for 14 years. And we've grown over this time to 2,500 SAP customers that use our tools day in, day out. And so our tools have stood the test of time and are used in very high demand enterprise type environments. And that's what we're focused on, and that's where our expertise is, and that's what we will continue to bring to our customers. We are an SAP certified vendor. Our platform for our tools is SAP certified up to the latest releases. We talked earlier about Theobald Software being an SAP partner. That allows us to stay up to date with SAP's technologies, with SAP's products, and we typically evaluate them very early to see if there's opportunity or perhaps new pain points for customers that we can address. Our tools really are extensions of what you have as, or what you may have as solutions. So we're not trying to replace your existing ETL toolset. In particular with Extract IS, we complement SSIS, and similarly with Extract Universal that you saw, we help you with the data extraction, but the tool can be scheduled and integrated from other environments. So we try to be as simple as possible data extraction tool for SAP, help you with the heavy lifting of getting SAP data out without being overly complex or pricey. And that's the last point. You will find our tools to offer low TCO. If you look at the licensing, how we're licensed, the pricing of that, but also the cost it takes for customers to maintain, and also the short learning curve involved in the tools. Most customers see results very quickly once they start the trial, usually within days, and it doesn't require a months-long consulting project, as perhaps is the case with other tools or solutions. We have a number of our case studies on our website that talks a little bit more in detail about how some of our SAP customers use our solutions. Feel free to take a look at that. And we also have, for every one of our products, we offer a 30-day free trial at no cost. In fact, it comes with our support, with our guidance during that trial phase. So please give it a try. We also have detailed step-by-step instructions in our online help that gets most customers started without a lot of hand-holding. That concludes today's webinar. I would like to thank you for your time today, and we hope you enjoyed this presentation, and we hope to hear from you, and we'll say goodbye for now. Thank you.